From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, I'm Carla Gonzalez, and this is From the South. On Monday, Venezuela faced a new attack on the power system. This was a combined effort of both a cyber attack and a physical sabotage on the country's main hydroelectric plant.
Venezuelans faced two new attacks on their electrical systems on Monday, March 25th. The first, at midday, revealed to have been an electromagnetic attack, was brought under control by the authorities over the course of the afternoon.
Produjo pérdida de carga.
The first event, with similar characteristics to that perpetrated on March 7th, occurred on Monday at 1:29 p.m. and caused a loss of charge, which was rapidly recovered by workers. And through the coordination of the Bolivarian government with Corpo Elec, recovery was efficient, and from 7 p.m. onward, the system was working at peak performance.
But then, at 10 o'clock at night, a second power cut occurred, which went on for more than 12 hours and forced the country to suspend classes and most work activities on Tuesday the 26th. This was after a blaze was started, where transformers at the Guri Dam are located.
At 9:47 p.m. on Monday, March 25th, criminals set a huge fire in the transformer area at Guri, which affected 3 transformers at the station, as well as the wiring, which allows transmission.
Despite the magnitude of the attack, contingency plans went into action quickly. The power outage meant that the subway was out of service, but a provisional bus system ensured commuting around Caracas continued.
We should get used to it, because the opposition are already asking for a military intervention and war. What's happening now is just as bad as war. Not having electricity, water, transport, or food. It may be worse.
They are not causing harm to just one person. We are all Venezuelans. If they care about us, even a little bit, they wouldn't do this.
On the other hand, Simón Bolívar International Airport functioned as normal thanks to a generator. Health authorities said medical care was not threatened by the interruption in the power supply, and water in hospitals was guaranteed by tankers nonetheless. The military is now reinforcing the country's power grid.
The Bolivarian armed forces have been deployed here. We're not going to get tired. We have the will to overcome, to go past any enemy of the country. Our president ordered us to ensure that the electricity system functions, and we will do so.
At around midday, electricity began to return, but in an unstable manner, with partial cuts throughout the afternoon. Still, the people are ready for new attacks.
I have a battery-powered radio, candles, and a flashlight. But will this continue? I hope not, because this is a problem for everyone.
The Venezuelan Public Ministry has started a criminal investigation into those responsible for the fire at the plant. Meanwhile, school and work remain suspended for Wednesday.
In Colombia, armed groups are forcing thousands of families to leave several villages in Antioquia and Córdoba. This, according to human rights defender Andrés Chica. He says the armed groups are seizing lands to use them for drug trafficking. Some of the families have arrived at a humanitarian camp, but some are being held by the criminals. The campesinos are demanding that humanitarian organizations like the International Red Cross assist those forced to flee. And this is what Chica had to say about this humanitarian emergency during a radio interview.
Yesterday, while they were going down the sidewalks near Rio Sucio, they were detained by a clan of Golfo members, which thought some of them had been part of the FARC. And now they recognize themselves as the new Front 18. So now we have a much more difficult scenario. For the people who have been expelled by criminal actors, they have to travel 2 hours by mule. And there they have other criminals that advise them not to leave those territories. And by contrast, there is the invisibility, or the almost null presence of military forces to reestablish order and freedom in this region of the country.
Another group of thousands of migrants from Central America, the Caribbean, and Africa are hoping to reach the U.S. border. Social organizations have criticized the authorities of Chiapas in Mexico for reportedly preventing migrant women and children from entering cities to stock up on supplies. A number of migrant caravans have tried to reach the United States since last year, despite President Donald Trump's hardline policies.
We need some support. Please, we are hot. We are hungry. We are thirsty. We need water, medicine. Please, please help us move. The sun is too much for the children. From the bottom of our hearts, to the people of Mexico, we appreciate the support you have given us, but please, help us.
The relatives of the 3 Ecuadorian journalists kidnapped and killed at the border with Colombia are once again demanding answers 1 year after the crime. Our correspondent in Quito, Denise Herrera, has the details.
Standing outside the government palace in Quito, with banners and photographs, the relatives of Comercio newspaper team kidnapped and murdered on the northern border with Colombia are once again demanding to know the truth about the deaths of their family members.
For the relatives, it is very difficult to face this. We will not stop, and we will fight until we know the truth about this case and get justice.
The Inter-American Commission on Human Rights is carrying out an investigation into the kidnappings and murders of driver Efraín Segarra, journalist Javier Ortega, and photographer Paul Rivas. The families went to international organizations due to the silence from the government.
The authorities currently in office have used the policy of silence in response to our actions. Yesterday, they provided us with additional information on the case because they know a year has passed, and today we will talk with the media. We decided to review with our lawyers what has led to the policy of silence regarding the death of Paul, Javier, and Efraín.
A year after the deaths of the Comercio newspaper team, their loved ones didn't know what really happened until now. They say they will take any measures necessary to find the truth. Denise Herrera, Telesur, Ecuador.
Uruguay's ruling party has launched its presidential campaign as general elections near. During an event in the city of Paysandú, the Frente Amplio party introduced their 4 candidates for primary elections in June. The favorite of the 4 is Daniel Martínez, the current mayor of Montevideo. The party hopes their candidate can win a 4th consecutive term in office. Presidential and legislative elections will take place on October 27. Parts of Peru's Amazon region are underwater following heavy rains. More than 13,000 people have been affected by floods, and at least 51 have died. The worst hit areas are Iquitos, Huánuco, and Oxapamba. Wet weather is in the forecast until next week. The Comoros Electoral Commission has declared current President Azali Assoumani the winner of Sunday's presidential election. Assoumani was re-elected by a landslide with 60% of the vote, and he has called for peace after the opposition said the election was flawed. Authorities violently broke up an opposition protest on Monday. 12 people were injured after police fired tear gas and rubber bullets.
It's true that there were mistakes, but we consider ourselves happy because it could have been a lot more serious. So we congratulate ourselves. We thank God and the Comorian people. But as I said, it is the easiest part that has been done. Now it is the most difficult. It is the construction of the country, and I need everyone to come together to move forward.
South African labor and political movements have continued extending solidarity to the government of Venezuela. Members of the National Union of Metal Workers of South Africa and the Socialist Revolutionary Workers' Party have picketed in front of the U.S. consulate in the city of Cape Town. They're calling for an end to U.S. attempts to overthrow Venezuela's democratically elected government. The strike comes less than 2 weeks after another picket was held in front of the U.S. Embassy in Pretoria. And members of NUMSA have also gone on strike at the country's largest manufacturer of construction materials over alleged racism. We spoke with South African researcher and activist David Van Wyk, who says the nationalization of the country's means of production is the only effective way to fight widespread abuse of workers' rights.
Well, I think the way to end racism in the workplace is actually to try and begin to nationalize the wealth and resources of South Africa and to put it under the control of South Africans rather than under the control of international corporations and so on. The international corporations behave with impunity with regard to the wealth of this country and with regard to evading taxes and invoice fraud and so on.
The son of former South African President Jacob Zuma has pleaded not guilty to manslaughter related to a fatal car crash in 2014. Duduzane Zuma said the accident, in which 2 people died, was unintentional. His defense is that he hit a pool of water and lost control of his vehicle. He initially faced 2 charges of culpable homicide and 1 count of negligent driving. One of the culpable homicide charges will be withdrawn. We have more stories coming up. We'll be back.
The Pakistani journalist Tariq Ali examines the mass media influence promoted by imperialism. Get access to the analysis of the socio-economic and political life of the whole South America on our screen and platform in English. A critical place committed to the truth to determine the major events that transformed the world today. On Monday, only on Venezuela.
Welcome back. Ethiopian Airlines has been named the African Champion of the Year at a business award event held in Rwanda. The airline was hailed for implementing an impressive expansion strategy that has enabled it to reach over 50 countries across the globe. The airline's CEO thanked Africans all over the continent who have demonstrated their solidarity with the company following the tragic March 10th plane crash. Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo have pledged to end the conflict between the 2 countries and work together for peace. Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi and his Rwandan counterpart Paul Kagame made the announcement at the ongoing Africa CEO Forum in Kigali. The 2 neighbors have had a fractious relationship since the 1994 Rwandan genocide. Last year, heavy fighting broke out between the Rwandan and Congolese military in troubled Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo after an incursion by Rwandan troops.
We will not move towards an escalation of violence between our 2 countries. In any case, the Democratic Republic of Congo is there. It offers its assistance in the event of certain difficulties that we could eventually overcome, because our vision is to build bridges between us and not walls.
If we can't work together as brothers, sisters, as friends, we can decide to give each other peace and forget about what we have to do together, but above all, avoid quarrels that may just be destructive.
The United Nations has sent a team to Mali in response to the brutal massacre that occurred over the weekend. 10 human rights officers, a child protection officer, and 2 crime scene investigators went to the Mopti region to investigate Saturday's attack. The UN Rights Office said the massacre of more than 150 people this weekend marks a significant surge in killings. These attacks have led to about 600 deaths of women, children and men, as well as thousands of displaced people since March 2018.
The attack in Ogusagu in the Mopti region in central Mali is the latest in a series of assaults and a cycle of violence that has resulted in some 600 deaths of women, children and men, as well as thousands of displaced people since March 2018. So 600 people have been killed in a year over the past 12 months in the Mopti region alone.
The army chief in Algeria has called for the presidency to be vacated. Lieutenant General Gaed Salah says the people's demands regarding President Abdelaziz Bouteflika are valid. Sala cited Article 102 of the Constitution, which allows the Constitutional Council to declare if the president is unfit to rule. This follows a month of mass protests against President Bouteflika. The veteran UN diplomat Lakhdar Brahimi is set to lead talks on Algeria's political future. More CARICOM heads of government are criticizing the decision of 5 Caribbean leaders to hold talks with the U.S. president. Antigua and Barbuda Prime Minister Gaston Brown has called his Caribbean counterparts who attended the meeting weak-minded. In a Facebook post, Brown said they allowed themselves to be treated like servants. He said CARICOM must continue its position by standing on principle without inducements or fear of reprisals. Brown's comments follow St. Vincent and the Grenadines Prime Minister Ralph Gonsalves' criticism of Jamaica, the Bahamas, Haiti, St. Lucia, and the Dominican Republic. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Brown has reiterated CARICOM's non-intervention policy on Venezuela.
That if it wasn't for the strong position of CARICOM to stand on principle, the principles of non-interference, non-intervention, respecting the sovereignty of states, I guarantee you military action would have been taken in Venezuela already, and there would have been dire consequences for Caribbean people.
The United States has come under fire for its decision to increase political and economic pressure on Cuba. The Organization of Eastern Caribbean States is calling on the U.S. president to lift the decades-old blockade on Cuba. Leaders criticize the U.S. government's decision to lift the suspension of Article 3 of the Helms-Burton Act for 30 days, from March 19 to April 17. This makes it possible for lawsuits to be filed against Cuban entities by U.S. claimants whose properties were seized by the state during the Cuban Revolution. Authorities in Jamaica have clamped down on illicit fuel operations in communities near Petrojam. While the authorities did not find illegal connections to Petrojam's 23 underwater pipelines, they discovered other illegal fuel operations on land.
But they also, Mr. Speaker, with the police, conducted various operations in and around the communities around Petrojam. And they have discovered and dismantled various illegal fuel operations. So, Mr. Speaker, we have taken these actions.
Regarding the future of Petrojam, Prime Minister Holness says the new board has taken all steps to ensure that good governance practices are in place at the refinery.
They have ensured a close monitoring of oil losses. International benchmarks for oil loss goes up to 0.9%. Petrojam's own internal target is 0.4. On average, since April 2018, Petrojam has been operating at 0.2% average oil loss, which is well within Petrojam's own target.
Barbados has revealed plans to establish a project implementation unit for the development of its medical cannabis industry. This was revealed by Prime Minister Mia Mottley during her delivery of the 2019-2020 budget. She said the unit is tasked with establishing the administrative framework for the timely implementation of the project. It will also facilitate the establishment of a medical cannabis authority. We're taking one last break. Stay with us.
The life is full of moments. Moments of fight. Moments of hope. Moments that transcend. Moments that you can live in. Telesur documentaries. Sundays. Only on Telesur.
Welcome back. Israeli forces have once again launched airstrikes in Gaza. This comes after Israel claims rockets were fired from Gaza into Israel. At the same time, Israel has sent additional forces to Gaza's border, saying it has reserved the right to carry out more attacks on the Strip. All this follows a ceasefire brokered by Egypt following cross-border fighting that began on Monday. Earlier, hundreds of people rallied in the Golan Heights against the U.S. decision to recognize the region as Israeli territory. Demonstrators gathered in front of the governor's building in the city of Bath. Syrian and Palestinian protesters waved flags, and demonstrators also held banners reading "Golan is Syria." And the European members of the United Nations Security Council have said they don't recognize Israel's sovereignty over this territory.
Our position on the status of the Golan Heights is well known, and we would like to make it clear that this position has not changed. In line with international law and relevant Security Council resolutions, notably Resolution 242 and 497, we do not recognize Israel's sovereignty over the territories occupied by Israel since June 1967, including the Golan Heights, and we do not consider them to be part of the territory of the State of Israel. Annexation of territory by force is prohibited under international law. Any declaration of a unilateral border change goes against the foundation of the rules-based international order and the UN Charter. We raise our strong concerns about the broader consequences of recognizing illegal annexation and also about the broader regional consequences.
Several countries have sharply criticized U.S. President Donald Trump for violating international law. It's also being described as an all-out aggression against Syria.
Syria is one of several countries which have strongly criticized Trump's order. International organizations have also spoken out against the move. They say it proves that Washington has ignored the UN Charter, international law, and UN Security Council resolutions.
Trump has no power to say that Golan Heights belongs to Israel, to the Zionists. No one has. This decision is a violation of the international law and an aggression against the sovereignty of Syria and the whole Arab world. We, the Iraqi people, as all the Arab people, are rejecting this decision made by Trump.
The government and the people of Syria have condemned Trump's order. They say they will continue the struggle to liberate the occupied region.
This decision will not have any legal effect, and this is just a gift to the Israeli Prime Minister ahead of the elections. After defeating terrorism, the Syrian people will start the battle to liberate the Golan and the occupied Palestine. This is the message by the Syrian people, the government and the army.
Zionism is behind the military occupation in the Golan. Tel Aviv is getting ready for a potential response from the Syrian army and its allies in the bloc of resistance against the Israeli occupation.
This decision by Trump cannot change the history of the occupied Golan. We insist that it will be liberated soon, as well as all the Arab people, especially the Syrian and the Palestinian people. We won't sit back. We will defend our history and our right to reach victory.
The Golan Heights are located in the southwest of Syria, spanning 1,800 kilometers. It borders Palestine, Lebanon, and Jordan. The area was captured from Syria and occupied by Israel during the Six-Day War. Israel unilaterally annexed the Golan Heights in 1981. According to Damascus, the moves made by Israel, supported by the US, have no legal effect, so the territory will be liberated sooner than later.
Thailand's Prime Minister has said he is not involved in the process of forming the new government. This comes after the pro-junta Palang Pracharat party nominated Chan Ocha to be next Prime Minister.
The country has to move forward. I would not have allowed this election to happen if I had wanted to extend my power. Do you understand what I mean? All mechanisms should be aligned to the Constitution, which was voted by the people in the referendum. We must respect the people's voice.
A drag queen has entered politics in Thailand for the first time. Known as Natalia Pliakam in their drag persona, they are said to promote LGBTI rights and gender equality in a country where queer people still face discrimination. Pliakam signed up as a member of the Palang Thong Think Thai party and says that change may come slowly, but LGBTI acceptance is growing.
I think the society is more open-minded, and I want to break people's bias on genders. I want to prove that I can join politics even though my gender is different, because it is in my rights as a Thai citizen.
To the end of the world and back, one Argentinian motorcyclist decided to bring his dog on a road adventure. Wearing goggles, Pocho, the dog, sits comfortably on a special seat behind his owner, Dardo Campostrini. Originally meant to be just a quick ride, the unlikely duo has been on the road for over a month now. They have traveled through Argentina, Patagonia, and are currently riding around the south of Chile. And with that, we come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and more stories by going to our website on telesurenglish.net. For our viewers in Africa, we are on Starsat channel 461 in South Africa and channel 539 in Nigeria. And you can join us on social media as well. For Telesur English, I'm Carla Gonzalez. Thank you for watching.